Oh God. I suddenly felt a couple of strong smacks on the side of my thigh nearest my husband. So I looked over and noticed that he was watching the screen and asked, "What?" He looked at me and said, "What?" I said, "You tapped me. What did you want?" He said, "I didn't tap you." I was puzzled and looked around to see who was messing with me, and there wasn't anyone close enough to tap me. Oh my God. I shrugged it off and continued to watch the movie. Jackie, no, that's when you run. Ugh.
On today's episode of Hollywood Paranormal will be one of great banter, great stories, and great frights, all coming from Bryce's voice. As you heard in the intro right there, we'll have a great listen of a very unusual and very spooky tale that is set at the Hollywood Forever Cemetary, where one of our listeners tries to enjoy a movie set in Hollywood Forever, except that she has a little disruption from the other side. We also have a few stories where it is a true tale that our loved ones definitely come back to let us know that they're still around and they're still watching. And finally, another story that involves an old Spanish folklore tale of the Lechuza, or a being who is a witch that is half woman, half owl. So let's gather around, friends, as we tune in to these listeners' tales. And if you're at work, make sure to pump up the volume on those headphones. And if you're at home, make sure that the doors are locked, that you're possibly sleeping with more than one nightlight on, and that your Himalayan salt lamp is nearby. Because we're going to get Holly Weird with part 8 of our listeners' tales.
Hey guys, it has been one hot minute and a very long pandemic, but Bryce and I are back.
Oh, there was a pandemic? Oh, I didn't realize.
Seemed like it lasted as long as a sneeze, but
Yeah.
reality, no. It lasted like, the freaking plague, but here we are.
Year-long 2-week shutdown. We're still fucking kicking, so apparently it takes more than a global pandemic to take us down.
Maybe if they closed down Starbucks, then
in no world
that
will I
would be
survive
the
that.
yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. I have a new neighbor who is the morning shift manager at a Starbucks. I have her on speed dial or on my text, like one of my favorite people to text, like, which new drink should I try today? She's like, oh girl, I got you.
Very good. It's gotten to the point
Yes.
where I go to the same Starbucks every single morning, and I'm like a local celebrity. Like, is this what celebrity feels like? I like stroll in, they all know my name. I get a very simple order, so it's like I don't ever have to wait anyway. But like they order, I like thank them, give them my little tip, and then like walk out. And people always look at me like, why did that guy get to like go straight to like? Because even though I order ahead online, there's like clearly other people there who have also ordered ahead online and are like waiting. And they all just look at me, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm very important. So yeah, if there was
I could see that.
pandemic, I
I
would
could
not
see
survive.
you walking into that Starbucks with your glasses,
Yep.
Texting on your phone. The wind is blowing through your hair and your beard stubble.
Yep.
You, for some reason, I still see you in chanclas. I still see you walking in your sandals.
Oh,
and
so you've seen it then, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, girl. I mean,
Yeah.
You are definitely a spitting image of beauty right there. Do they put the little heart on, the eye of Bryce? Did they do that? Did you do something quirky?
Sometimes they'll do like the label, so then it's just like typed, but because like it comes through my phone, but like literally every single person that works there knows me, and they always are like, "See you tomorrow," and I'm like, "Yeah, why am I gonna? I'm not gonna pretend. Like I'm not gonna pretend that I'm not gonna be here." So okay.
Well, guys, we're definitely not cutting back on our listeners' tails as we
no.
promise all of you guys on Instagram and on Facebook. You guys have submitted so many stories and recordings. I have some saved since the beginning of January, and we're just so excited to share them. And Bryce, not so much.
I'm excited that people submit them. I am less excited to read them.
And of course, I gave Bryce a couple of juicy ones per some of our listeners' requests to have him read them and hear the fear inside his voice. And if you're on Patreon, then you're definitely going to see the fear in his face. So
no, every time I'm like, I'm not going to get freaked out this time.
No, that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Well, we have a couple from California and one from Florida. We also have a recording. Some of them are very scary. Some of them are very funny, and some of them will probably make us cry and your beard cry, Bryce.
Good.
And
good.
I hope you got your Trenti cup next to you, just so to catch your tears. There you go. Mm-hmm. So, Bryce, ladies first. You want to take the first one away?
I do want that. Okay.
Let's go right ahead. I'm going to turn on my light so I don't sit in the dark.
Our friend, Jackie. Hi, Jackie. Hi, Tammy and Bryce. I'm a new listener. Love that. And I've been binge listening to your podcast. I love the research you both do, which provides a great backstory and segue into paranormal activities. I realized that I cannot listen to your podcast while I work, while walking or driving, because I want to stop and research those topics highlighted in every episode. Don't worry, I still listen. I can't help myself. So I just keep a pad of paper and write down all the topics I want to research in my free time. I love that. Get it, research.
Mm-hmm.
I was just listening to your interview with the disappointed goddess and the part about the Paramount lot neighboring the Hollywood Forever Cemetary. Yes. This triggered a memory of an experience I had at this cemetery. I have never shared this story with anyone but my husband. Oh my God, fresh tea.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to share my experience. The only request I have is that Bryce reads this. Shady. That's shady. If it's read on the podcast, don't worry, it's not too creepy. Here it goes. Also, I feel like if you have to say it's not too creepy,
it's gonna be creepy. If you could be creeped out by 101 Dalmatians, Bryce, then
yes, I can be.
Come on.
I'm creeped out that Glenn Close could be that talented.
Yeah.
Not normal. Okay, here it goes. A few years ago, my husband bought us tickets to watch Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, one of my most favorite Hitchcock movies. Excellent choice. At the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. When we were finally able to drive in and park, we walked to the event area, which was a green space that was in front of Hitchcock's tombstone. It was super cool. That is super cool. We explored the cemetery before and had never seen his tombstone, so I was really excited. The setup was pretty elaborate, as the cemetery had some vendors to enhance the ambiance, which included fog machines. Oh my God, at least I believe they had fog machines. Real fog.
It was a raveyard.
Yeah, like, oh God. We finally settled in with dozens of others on the grass and placed our ice chest between our beach chairs and enjoyed our wine and dinner. That's so cute. As we sat there, I noticed buildings next to the space where we were sitting and asked my husband what the building was, and he said that it was the Paramount Studios. Oh wow, I thought, it's huge. It is. The Paramount lot is massive.
It is.
So the movie started, and I remember thinking, gosh, it gets really dark around here. Not much lighting. As we were watching the movie, I suddenly felt a couple of strong smacks on the side of my thigh nearest my husband. So I looked over and noticed that he was watching the screen and asked, what? He looked at me and said, what? I said, you tapped me. What did you want? He said, I didn't tap you. I was puzzled and looked around to see who was messing with me, and there wasn't anyone close enough to tap me. Oh my God. I shrugged it off and continued to watch the movie. Jackie, no, that's when you run. Ugh. Again, I felt stronger smacks that felt more like hits on my same thigh, and I said to my husband, what do you want? He said, what? I said, why do you keep hitting me on my leg? He said, I haven't touched you. Oh. I looked down and saw that the ice chest was still between us, and noticed that he would have had to lean over quite a bit to tap me. Then looked to see if there was someone messing with me, and everyone was into the movie. Oh no, Jackie. Then I thought, oh wait, I'm at the cemetery. What a pure thought. Oh wait, I'm at the cemetery. That is clearly filled with spirits and next to a really old movie studio. I began assessing and felt like the smacks were heavy and hurried, almost as if someone wanted to quickly show me something. Oh god, I thought, who is buried under me? How have you not run yet? Okay. While I sat there a little while longer until the movie ended, okay, sure. I was extremely uneasy as I was not sure what would happen next. I kept looking around to see if I spotted anything or anyone. I was thankful at the time that nothing further happened. I, oh God, Jackie. I also attached a picture of where we were sitting, which has a purple dot. As you can see, the spot is surrounded by grave sites and the neighboring studios.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. I've never gone back since, but I do plan to return and do some investigating in that area, especially now that I know that the Paramount Studios is haunted. That makes me even more curious. I think if you do any ghost hunts, I think it should be the nearest wall between the cemetery and the studio. I bet there will be a lot of activity. That is my story, and I hope it wasn't too badly written. No, it was just super creepy. I'll send an update on my next trip to the cemetery with pictures. Keep up the great work. Love and always, Jackie. I added that part. It's just from Jackie. Oh god, that is so creepy. And why did you not run?
I know. It's just like when you're in that moment, you're just processing it, You're just like, wait, did that just really happen? You're just going over certain scenarios in your head, and that's how I am when I investigate. When I see something that does not look normal and I'm like processing it and processing it. And I'm like the biggest skeptic when it happens to me and it's like I'm not reacting.
Yeah.
But some people are just like, fly, what is it? Fight or flight, faint or frozen. I think 3 out of those 4, Bryce. You're flight, faint.
If you remember, I think it's like our
freeze,
first
faint,
episode,
and fright.
where we talk about like our paranormal experiences and that exact feeling like what you're talking about, where it's like your brain moving through molasses trying to like process what's happening, but it can't like keep up. And yes, eventually in my first one of many ghost stories, I did eventually run, but I was frozen for like such a large amount of that time, and then it like shook me out of it, and I was like, oh, it's time to run. And ironically,
I remember you were shuffling.
Yeah, I was in flip-flops, so yeah. Yeah. No, I actually picked them up and ran. Yeah, it was great. Yeah,
he would have pulled like a Spanish mother move by just throwing or hitting whatever you saw with a chancla. That would have been classic.
Yep.
So what I found out, here's a little trivia too, and for everyone that's paying attention and listening, and I felt bad after I found this out too, because I really thought that that Hitchcock was buried at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. You do see a headstone that says Hitchcock, and you assume because it's the Hollywood Forever that it's him. So apparently it's not. It's not him, actually. And I researched this, that Alfred Hitchcock was cremated. And that is a different Hitchcock, unfortunately. But a lot of tour guides who are not well educated, when they give little tours around the Hollywood Forever, they just kind of don't add that into their whole monologue there. So
enough people are like creating energy there.
I mean, it could be because it's constantly, it's always being visited. I mean, there's even yoga that is done over. I did yoga there. I will admit, yes.
There is nowhere that LA residents will not do yoga. Of course there is yoga in the cemetery.
They just need to add a juice bar and we'll be fine.
So funny. Of course there's yoga. I love that.
Yeah, so we did yoga kind of across from where his stone is. And it's actually really tranquil and it's very beautiful. It was really early. I think they do early morning yoga, I think Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m. And it's really, really nice. But yes, I mean, when you're in the vinyasa pose, and I think it's vinyasa when you're in the corpse pose, no pun intended. Yes. And you're meditating, Lord knows what, those people are also conjuring up unexpectedly.
Totally.
But yeah, I'm sure like something or someone was attracted to her and of the other world, and I'm sure they wanted to make their presence known, and they certainly did. And anyone else that wants to know about ghost stories in reference to Hollywood Forever, it's very rare that I hear anything that comes out of that cemetery related to the paranormal.
Yeah.
I think it's a Carrie Bible. I think that's her first name, last name definitely Bible, but she is the Hollywood Forever historian.
Oh,
And
wow.
she is the one that dresses up every year as the woman in black and puts the rose on Valentino's grave. So she is the one that portrays that character every year. And I remember her on Bridget's podcast, I think a year or two ago, where Bridget was like, well, is it haunted? She's like, no, like I haven't felt or seen anything.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's very interesting, yeah. But I mean, it all depends on the person, if
So
they're
much
really
depends
open.
on the viewer. Yeah.
Yeah, and it also depends, and this is something that I've like also realized, you're going to get what you're looking for. So if that's what you're looking for, then I'm sure that that's what you're going to get eventually. But this story was really, really cool. I'm glad that Jackie wrote, typed it and sent it in to us, because it's very rare that we get stories in relation to Hollywood Forever, and it's really cool that she went through this experience.
I'd be really interested to see what her experience is if she does end up going back. Like if she experiences something different, or if like that same energy revisits her, or I don't know. It's so interesting.
Yeah, I never feel anything bad there, but you can imagine, like, they don't not only do Cinespia, they have Dia de los Muertos. They do that for a couple of days. They have concerts. They have other festivals. They do yoga. I mean, there's so much that happens there. I was really looking into being buried in Hollywood Forever, because if I pass, I want to be like in a haunted graveyard, in my next life, like partying it up and watching old films in my grave. Like, it's amazing. Or being, right across from Anton, Yelchin, like, hey, hey, Anton. I know. If you ever go, guys, you definitely see his grave. It's so heartbreaking, so beautiful. It is a really wonderful place to visit. It's a must-see when you come to Los Angeles, this Hollywood Forever. It's very, very beautiful. And just take an afternoon, walk around, see what...
It's such a beautiful area of LA regardless.
And you definitely get a good view of the Hollywood sign. It's really interesting. All right, guys, so we have another story here, and I'm going to open this up real quick. This is from Monica Morado. And this one I really love because it's folklore, and it's a story within a story within a story, and we'll go into it. This is going to be a bit of a rant later, but just hear us out. But it's a really good story, and it involves the folklore, the Spanish folklore of Lechuzas, which is a folklore character in the Spanish culture of a being that is half woman, half owl.
Ooh, yeah. I love owls.
Yes. Well, this one you're not going to like.
Okay, that makes sense. Yep.
Yeah. Hey, y'all. My name is Monica Morado. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I wanted to say that I'm a huge fan of y'all's. I have 3 paranormal experiences, the last one being the most terrifying one. So I come from a very superstitious Hispanic household. From the time I was a little girl, I've always heard stories about lechuzas. Lechuzas are believed to be witches who take babies who aren't baptized. And there's also stories about them predicting when someone is going to get sick. Depends what part of Mexico you're from. I have always been afraid of them and never had experience anything due to me being baptized. My first experience with one was 6 years ago when my niece was either 2 or 3 months old. I remember she was very fussy, and we fed her and changed her. Nothing worked. She continued to be very fussy, and at one point my mom said, "It's probably a lechuza." We laughed because we didn't believe it. So we heard dogs barking, and I remember that I opened the front door and a huge white owl came out from one of the trees. And we got goosebumps because my mom said that it was a lechuza. Now, I remember the night I had a little bottle of holy water, and I formed crosses on all 4 corners of the house. Flash forward to 2019. I had my daughter, and I was prepared. I had open scissors taped to the window and cruz de palma, which is a cross and palm leaves on doors. So around the time my daughter was born, it was summer and we were living in Texas. I remember our AC had broke down, so we had to buy a window AC. I was nervous because I took down the cross and scissors off from the windows. I remember I was feeding my baby around 2:33 a.m. in the morning, and I remember seeing the AC wobbling like as if someone was on the other side trying to get in. I
No.
froze. I tried waking my husband, but I couldn't speak. When I gained the strength to wake my husband to check, no one or nothing was outside the window. The next morning, I texted the manager to let her know about the situation, and she told me that maintenance crew were the only ones who had the keys to get in the back part of the complex. Since then, I haven't heard anything happening around my daughter until I had my son in 2020. My in-laws were in town visiting. I remember one night I had trouble sleeping. I left the door cracked open and I had seen what looked like my mother-in-law go into the kitchen, but I never saw her walk back to the guest room. I got worried, got up, peeked out, and she wasn't there. I
No.
freaked out. And in the morning, I had asked her if she got up and she said no. I
No.
told her what happened and we both got goosebumps and blessed the house. A couple of days after I finally had my baby, I remember I was trying to go to sleep but was listening to the baby in case he woke up. As if I was falling asleep, I heard two women say, "Nos vamos a llevar al niño." We're going to take the baby. I couldn't open my eyes, but I felt raged as I was trying to wake up. I remember shouting out, "No se lo van a llevar," meaning you're not going to take them. And that's when I woke up. But I felt so sick to my stomach. I checked on my baby. He was asleep peacefully. Looked at the time. It was 3:30 a.m. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I told my family what happened, and they told me that they didn't hear me. At that time, I lived in a 2-story apartment building. My window was out looking the street and parking lot. I really don't know if I was sleep deprived or maybe someone passed by around that time. So this was a very interesting story. And when, we talked about legends before.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of dissect her story because it's very, very interesting when it comes to folklore, especially in Spanish culture. There's a reason, especially in many countries and in Mexico, why these folklores happen. And, based on my analysis and research, her version of the Lechuzas was predominantly the main one that dates back many, many centuries ago when Spaniard colonizers arrived to Mexico with the Christian faith, and they instilled the natives with their beliefs by using fear. So the native tribes that, many, many centuries ago were inhabiting Mexico, originally inhabited Mexico with the belief in spirituality and had beautiful connections and communications with the earth and animals. And one of those animals definitely being white owls, which were their major source of elements right there. White owls in a lot of Native American beliefs, were animals who symbolize knowledge and wisdom. What kind of puzzled me with this folklore is that even though the colonizers were coming in and instilling their beliefs into these native tribes, in the Bible, it's described that animals such as the white owl represented knowledge and prosperity. And so the Spaniards created these stories of the Lechuzas as creatures who come to take children who haven't been baptized in the Christian or Catholic faith.
Yeah, that's so interesting that it's like a weird, it's like a blend.
So meaning if you don't believe in Jesus, then you'll suffer the consequences of your own belief systems. And this led the Native Americans, in my research, it led them to abandon their relationship not only with the earth and the elements, but also with the animals. So white owls in Mexico is like now what black cats are to the US. And it was believed that if you had a black cat here in the US, that you were a witch who danced with the devil. You know what I mean? So I feel that, and I've heard many different types of versions of the Lechuza, that the Lechuza was a woman who lost a child to a drunk driver. And if you're a male and drinking, you're going to get in your car, the Lechuza is going to get you. That's another version that I've heard.
Interesting.
So it kind of gets watered down within time.
Sure.
But, there's also that saying, when you give something power, a name or something power, that's what you're going to get back, is that fear and the power of what you're giving of that element or that object. And for her to believe in this folklore that this Lechuza is going to get her baby because it wasn't baptized.
Ugh.
I mean, what if you're Jewish and living in Mexico? What if you were of a different faith that, doesn't, have baptisms performed? Think of that. My response to her was, I feel that what happened is somewhat paranormal, but not in the way you think. In my personal opinion, the white owl that you and your mother witnessed in the very beginning may have been a spirit guide. Those can be elements of an ancestor or your personal spirit guide coming in to say, hey, I'm going to watch over you. I don't think it was anything negative. The AC moving along by itself, seeing your mother-in-law could be something else that is around you in the apartment. Sometimes it's not just
mother going into the kitchen. That is actually creepier because it's like a manifestation of a body as opposed to like some kind of spirit or animal or oof.
And that whole, I think of hearing, I'm going to take your child. It could have been a dream. It really could have been something that she possibly could have been hallucinating. I told her, look, your mother for the second time, you're sleep deprived.
Yeah.
You want to know the scariest thing in the story? Her entire story is not Lechuzas. It's being a mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is. Yeah, it's 100%. Like when my sister, and I told her, like when my older sister had her first child, she was a wreck, and then and for some reason it was worse when she had her second one. She's one to be very like overprotected and everything. Like I remember like when we would try to visit them, I sneezed in front of them. She was like, wait, are you sick? I'm like, no, it's the pollen. Like, oh, okay, because if you're sick, I don't want you or anywhere around the kids. I'm like, noted. I know. Then she has in-laws staying with her. There's all this stress and sleep deprivation that of course she's gonna hallucinate. And I told her, I think you do embody some sort of sensitivity where I feel like something's trying to communicate with you. I don't think it's Lechuzas. So she then proceeds to tell me other experiences that she had. And I'm like, well, there you go. Sometimes it's a calling. Sometimes it's like your guides or whoever is knocking on your door, is whether or not you want to keep that door closed or you want to open it and see what your third eye can see. So
what is she taking like any kind of precautions? Is she just looking to like explore what she's experiencing? Like, where did you leave off with her?
I just went ahead and I just told her, be a little more, I guess, not cautious, but just be a little more open of the things that are going around you and question them from a logistical standpoint. Being a mother I know it's very stressful, and it's going to make you feel very tired and overprotected. Worst case scenario. I even asked her, I'm like, do you have like reoccurring thoughts? Are you like myself, where I suffer from OCD, intrusive thoughts? Like, are these thoughts that are constantly going on in your head where it's like the worst case scenario? And she said that she sometimes has them. I told her, when things like this happen, keep a journal of it. Yeah. Keep a log of it. Question what you're feeling, how you're feeling. Is it because you got a lack of sleep? Is it because of medication that you're taking? Is it because, are you under a certain amount of stress? Yeah. And log that all down. And, she just, when she starts sharing with me other stories about, I think there's one that she was sharing about a friend who died in a car accident and how he somehow like communicated to her from beyond. I was like, then that explains so much to me now that you have a sense of like you have a sensitivity.
She's clearly sensitive.
Yeah. So to me, like, I love getting these types of stories because I feel like we just don't know what's going around our environment. And it sometimes has to do with the environment, and other times it could be us, that we're sensing and feeling things that not a lot of people do feel and sense around them. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She follows up with me every now and then.
Aww.
You know, she's a little more aware. She's a little more accepting that she is sensitive, and she's also, you know, more knowledgeable now of the folklore of the Lechuzas. Yeah. But I mean, it's kind of like how the urban legends are here. If you think about it, remember like the couple, the urban legend of the couple that goes to the lover's lane and they make out, and then they hear like the sound of something screeching on the side of their door. They get scared, and then they get home. They see the hook on the side of the door, and it was supposed to be it was supposed to be like a cautionary tale of teenagers are not supposed to have, unmarital sex. So.
Ugh.
And I feel like this is why, we have a lot of these types of folklores around, because they derive from something.
Yeah, and like you had mentioned, so much of it too is like especially here in Southern California, is like the blending of like spiritualism from the old world with like Christianity as the Camino up the coast started growing and churches started popping up and all the little pueblos, and like those they had a hard time eradicating native religion, so they just kind of merged it into Catholicism, and it kind of became this like special hybrid that's like really unique to this area. So some of those sort of stories kind of persisted in through the Catholic influence.
Exactly.
Gotta love the missionaries, man.
I know. Oh, I know. I've heard so many stories, especially them being in India and Hinduism. There's a lot of them there trying to convert people who are like following Hinduism. They're trying to convert them to Christianity. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. That's just me. I don't know how I feel about that.
As someone who's been on a lot of missions trips, let me tell you that I have a lot of white guilt over it. So that's pretty great. Seems pretty problematic. I don't know, something
Thank
about
you,
like
Monica, so much for that story.
Yeah,
oh, sorry,
so
go right ahead.
Sweet, and congratulations on your baby.
I know. I told her you're you already sound like a badass mom. Like, look, you sound
in 2020.
Yeah. Not just one, but two. I was like, girl, you have two. I know. You have a boy and a girl. And I mean, like, do what you want to do, but no matter what, like, based on the story I told her, scariest thing seems like is motherhood, but one of the best things that came out of the story is your children, and that you are a badass mom that will cut a lechuza. Yeah. All right, you would cut a bitch, but you would also cut a lechuza. So there we go.
That's
Well, it looks like you have another story to share.
Yes, I do. Yes. Ooh. This is from Nathan. Hi, Nathan. Also, Nathan got married. Oh my God, it's so crazy.
I know. Congratulations, girl. We are so happy for you.
It's important to remember that good things still happen, and Nathan getting married is a good thing. Also, yeah, he did put in the subject line, there is like a light trigger warning, so just be aware of that, friends. Hey, boo, hey, Nathan here. Hey. I know it's been a hot minute since I emailed in. Life's been nuts. Newlyweds. But I figured since I've gotten to know you two over the past year, I decided to share a story that kind of jump-started my obsession with the strange and the unusual. Now, this goes back to my junior year in high school around 04, 05. My boyfriend at the time was a pagan, and his sister had her coven going on. So, fast forward a few months after he and I had been dating, we went to watch a new Korn DVD. That's the most early 2000 sentence I've ever read.
Nathan. Or did you ever have, like, that one, non-used now, like, email address, like freakonaleash83@yahoo.com, or... Yep, Corn lover with a capital K 323 at AOL.
My screen name was Junior Wild Boy BOI, and there's like a story behind that. But I honestly, it is like jailbait. Like, I do not know how I did not get like a lot of creepy old people trying to sexually harass me. Like, thank God. I think I just was that sheltered. But like growing up, I was like, why is that your AIM screening? Like, Junior Wild Boy with an I? No. Yeah. So, corn DVDs, very here for that. We went to watch the new corn DVD at his sister's house. The night was just like any other night. Side note, I'm not a fan of Ouija boards, nor am I.
We get along so well.
No Ouija boards, thank you. Xander decides to participate in a Ouija session, with the few people who were there in a separate room. So I'm like maybe 30 minutes into the DVD and Xander starts yelling. No, this is bullshit, don't joke like that. And then in a fit of rage, the board goes into the fireplace and we head back to my house. Side note, that would not technically be considered closing the session, correct? If you destroy the board, but you've left the session open, would it still be open?
Yeah, if you left the session open, you left something open, and if you burned the board, then you're kind of screwed. Yeah, that's just a recipe for some bad spiritual disaster.
So destroying the board does not necessarily close the session, is that right?
No, it just really intensifies. It messes everything up. Like, it just causes things to intensify, meaning it's going to be a lot harder to close whatever you had open. And there's a good reason why boards like this should never be sold in toy stores.
No.
Or any sort of novelty store. And if so, they should be something of great metaphysical use from someone who knows how to open and close sessions. I'm not big on the board. I believe in it. I believe in its history. You know the history, you know the board. But I've been in a couple of investigations and seances where people knew how to open and close a session properly. Patty Negri is a really good example because I know we love her, Hollywood witch. I was so fortunate to be part of a session with her at the David Oman house. And I mean, her way of opening and closing the circle, protecting the circle was just amazing. And, you know, people are like, well, weren't you afraid of something following you? I'm like, no, because I trusted who was coordinating everything, which was Patty.
In the hands of an expert, it's a tool. But in the hands of, like, someone who doesn't know what they're doing, it's like a weapon. So don't throw fire. Got it.
Just don't throw fire. Also, just don't start fires.
And don't use Ouija boards. There we go. All right. Back to the story, this horrifying story. No. So, just to recap, and in a fit of rage, the board goes into the fireplace and we head back to my house. Let me set this up. A country back road, no lights, but from the car. I literally can picture this so deeply. Scanning the side to make sure no deer jump in front of your car.
Exactly.
I'm scared. I've never seen him like that before, so I just started chatting about random stuff to see if I can calm him down. The next thing I remember, the windshield has spider web, just cracked, not shattered. I look over to him and he's got a cut across his throat, just deep enough to bleed, and I had a seatbelt bruise. I asked him what happened, and he said he saw something on the road and swerved to dodge it. The following week was just like a cloud of bad. His dad was hospitalized with respiratory issues, and both of our houses started having odd activity, from doors, cabinets, and windows being opened, voices from odd spots, static, cold spots, knocks, slams, screams, and growls. Oh my god. So when the following Saturday rolled around, the wreck had happened the previous Sunday. We decided to go out and have dinner and watch a movie. Got it, sorry. This was the last time that I got to speak to him. Oh, Nathan, no. That morning, I had an odd gut feeling that something was off. So around lunchtime, I drove over to hang out for the day, and as I turned onto his street, I could see the EMT lights, and my cell began to ring. It was his mother texting me. He had taken his life a few hours before she had woken up. It is still hard to talk about, so I'll not go into detail. I'm so sorry. That's so sad.
I know.
Don't do it, friends. A note was never found, if there was one. The night after the funeral, I was home alone out on my patio, stress smoking. I know, I was 17, and that's not a good thing to do, but hell, it's how I was coping. Get it, girl. That's when I actually smelled his Tommy cologne with a hint of those damn Camels that he smoked. I still have his rosary that he used to wear, which is one hell of a trigger object. From then on, I became obsessed with the paranormal, I want to know what's behind the veil, scary or not. Thank you both for the pod and giving us weirdos an outlet and a community to share these experiences and not be ridiculed or made fun of. Love you both, Nathan. Nathan, thank you. I'm so sorry.
No, it's a question that popped up in my mind, and I'm sure some people like to believe it was the board. It was the board. And I was a part of a really interesting Clubhouse discussion. Clubhouse is an app where you can join these audio-based groups with, interesting people. And I was a part of a really beautiful discussion with Zachariah the Witch and famed parapsychologist Kieran O'Keefe, who you probably seen on Most Haunted and other shows.
Yeah.
And we were doing a discussion on people who had experienced or had not so great experiences with the Ouija board. And there's this one girl who contacted them, who got involved in the discussion, and she carried, it was so emotional. But it was so enlightening because it gave her closure. But long story short, she had played with the board when she was very young in high school. She felt because she played with something that was so negative, that it caused the death of a family member. Because after she was done playing with the board, I think an uncle of hers passed. And she felt that it was because of the board. Zachariah picking up on her energy and everything. He's like, no, it's not because of the board. It's because, things like this happen, and that are out of our control. And it's this whole thing of like, well, if you carry a hammer, then the only things that you're going to look for are just the nails.
Yeah.
And she felt this horrendous guilt that by using the board, she caused the death of her uncle, which she ends up, realizing, within time that I think it was something internal that he was battling with for many, many years. I think she had definitely a breakthrough through noticing and realizing that she wasn't the cause of that. So like for Nathan that might be listening, like I don't want you to think that loved one that passed was something, due to the board. It could have been a lot of other things. Don't think it had anything to do with something super negative.
Yeah.
But sometimes, when our time's up, our time is up. Yeah. But that's so wonderful that he came back in the way that he did to let you know that he was there and that he was around. For the other things that he was experiencing, that could have been a lot of things. You're 17. You're going through a lot of shit.
Totally.
You remember the things that you were going through in 17?
Girl, I tried not to. In fact, yes.
I know. All I have to say is thank God for Drama Club. That's all I have to say. Yes. Thank God for Drama Club. But, that's such a tough year for so many because you're stressed, you're in school, you're trying to look for colleges, you're trying to figure out what's going to happen after high school.
A friend of mine from high school, actually, ironically, recently died. And I don't know why he died, but I've been thinking about death a lot because it's the first person in a long time that I've known of my age that's died. And from such an innocent time. I actually had a very positive high school experience. I know that's maybe not very common for a lot of people, but I got very lucky, I guess. So it's like this of course, this person that died, he was the nicest, sweetest, kindest person in a very positive experience. So when I found out that he died, I almost felt like robbed in a way because like people that are that nice shouldn't die. Like people that are that good shouldn't die. Which obviously is not how the world works, unfortunately. So as far as the paranormal, no, I can't say. I don't know enough about it, but I do know that like suicide is just never, ever, ever, ever the answer. As cliche as that sounds, but if anyone is listening and ever thinks that the world would be better if you are not in it, that is not true. The world will not be better. It will only be emptier. I've just been feeling such a sense of like emptiness after my friend died, and he did not kill himself as far as I know. But it's just still such a loss. Like, I just feel this deep loss of his goodness and his kindness. And that is the case for everyone. The world does need you. this community, Nathan mentioned it, like this community needs you. It's just never the answer,
Yeah.
So I know that's not really a paranormal, and we're certainly not a psychology podcast, and I'm certainly not qualified to diagnose or deal with anyone's psychological issues. I certainly have we all have our own issues going on, but the one thing I know for sure is that it really isn't the path, and there's so much to stay around for, there's so much to stick around for. Sorry, I'm not trying to be super preachy.
No, I guess you could say that people have their own personal demons.
Totally.
And we've even talked about this before, that they come in a form of, depression or anxiety.
Yeah.
And everything, it's described, if you go back to the writings or the teachings of Socrates, he had his own personal demon to deal with, and this world would be emptier without you guys. If you do feel that way, if you feel like you're alone, or if you feel like you just want to end it, no, there's so many people who care and want to help and want to make sure that they see you move on.
Yeah.
In this life, in the living world. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is so sweet that he was able to like smell the cologne. I love that it's Tommy cologne. That's the second most thing.
You just know when it's Tommy.
I know what it smells like.
You just, all of a sudden hear like Nelly playing in the background. You get the the Tommy Hilfiger crossed flag shirts, whatever.
Double layered pop collar polo.
The pop collar, everything. I had a friend that kept Tommy cologne in his truck. Like that's how country he was,
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely, he kept it in his truck.
Mm-hmm. And like that's kind of gross because it's very hot and it just doesn't. That would not go well with this, like cologne. In the sun.
And just we didn't shower in the 2000s. That's a little known fact. We just covered ourselves in Tommy, so everyone's
Tommy or CK1.
Juicy.
Yeah, Juicy or CK1.
Oh,
the only one.
I
was more of a Calvin Klein girl than a Tommy girl. Yeah.
I have gone through all the bad cologne fragrances. I've done them all. Yeah.
Nathan, always such a pleasure to get your stories. And we, are always here for you. He always messages us, and I always love reading his messages.
Me too.
Yeah, something's going on. Something else is going on in Florida he was messaging me about. And if you guys can help him figure it out too. But people are going missing in Florida and being found dead. It's really crazy. He's been updating me on the news, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I mean, it's Florida for one.
Right. Florida.
Something is up. Like it's a lot of people around his area that are just ending up missing, and then they're being found dead, which is really freaking scary. Here we are, armchair experts, trying to figure it out what it is.
Right. Yes.
All right. So this one's from Ruben Laura. Hey, Ghost Woman, I wanted to tell you a story that to this day I am still confused about. A year after my mother passed away, my dad and I were driving back home from a 7-Eleven, and on the way home, we were talking about the loss of my mother and how it must have affected my brother, and he had seen her collapse before she died. So we were talking about just how much he must be hurting since he keeps a lot to himself. Then on the way home, just right before parking on the curb, we started noticing a scent of roses that wasn't there when we had first gotten into the car. We both noted the smell and but had not said anything to each other. Until we parked, that's when I asked my dad if he could smell it too. He said yes, but that he wasn't sure about asking me first since he thought that maybe it was something explainable. However, it wasn't. There was nothing rose-scented in the car. Plus, after we got out of the car, we were still smelling the scent. Now, it was outside though, like right above my head, almost like a bubble of scent wrapped around my head, or like if it's diffusing from just above my head. It was so strong, almost perfumish, but then it just suddenly dissipated just as fast as it had shown up. This happened another time as well. I was leaving home, and when I walked right through the front doorway, the same scent hit me. but this time, like if it was coming from right outside the front doorway. And to my right is where it seemed to be coming from, but it also quickly vanished. Have you ever heard something like this? The front yard had roses, but they weren't in full bloom since they were dying. I went to smell those roses, but that did not smell as strong as the phantom smell. So it definitely wasn't that. Since then, it hasn't happened again.
So random.
Yes, I believe that, certain people have the gift of smelling. There is that's one of the clairs. I think it's clairseeing, where you can smell. Yeah. And I had that too when I was in New Orleans, and I had that. I did a haunted tour around a house, and I was smelling what smelled like, I think it was lilac or lavender. And I thought someone left a diffuser on or something. Yeah. And then I was told after the tour, oh yes, that is something that is kind of common with people. They smell the scent of this former owner's perfume. When you smell it, you know that she's around. So I was like, got you. I think for Ruben, I told him, I think it could have been like a loved one coming back to let you know that they're there, because that scent was so strong.
I wonder if someone wore rose-scented perfume.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if that could have been, his mother. But I mean, then again, our loved ones, like I said, they always like to come back and like to let you know that they're around in certain ways. Yeah. So it could be. But he said that since then it hasn't happened. But I'm sure she was checking up on him and his family to make sure that they're okay. Maybe it could be comforting. Just as long as he's not smelling anything that smells sour or putrid, then we're all good in the hood. So that was, one of his stories. Another one that he sent me, this is a pretty interesting one too. And this one also takes place in Mexico. Here's another ghostly experience. One time when I went to TJ or Tijuana with my family, we went to Panteon. Trader Jose's? What?
That's weird.
City of Ventura. What? Yeah. We went to the Panteon Cemetery number 2 to pay respects to family we have buried there. When you step into the cemetery lot, you start to kind of get the creeps if you're sensitive like I am. The place is filled with a lot of burial plots that are in disarray and littered with trash, which gives it an even spookier vibe to the place, and debris from trees, leaves, etc. I used to love walking around by myself just looking at the sights and atmosphere, although I never strayed too far from my family. As I walked around the lot, I noticed a grave that had a headstone with a glass display inside of it. It had a small lock, if I remember correctly, but the glass was cracked. Behind the glass was something that looked like a trophy or a vase. When I seen through the glass was a crack, I thought to myself that anyone could steal it away since the glass was cracked, as I mentioned. After I thought that, I swear I heard an angry, disembodied type of groan or moan coming from directly in front of me. Whoa. I was at the foot of the grave when I thought of this to myself, so the sound was directly in front of me. The thing is, there's no one near me, let alone in front of me. So as soon as I heard this, I knew right away that the person buried here didn't like that thought that I had, although I wasn't going to take it myself. After that, I walked around some more, and my cousin of mine, with a cousin of mine, as we walked past an area of the cemetery, we heard a cat's meow. It sounded like it was coming from our left side, but we couldn't see a cat anywhere. I made sure to look as closely as I could, but after not finding a cat, my cousin saw how freaked out I was. So he then told me that it was him that made the sound, but it wasn't, as he still had a perplexed look to him. I was right next to him, and the cat's meow didn't even sound like it was coming from right next to me. It sounded like it came from farther away, but as I mentioned, from our left side. The area didn't have overgrown bush or weed, so there was nowhere for a cat to hide, as I mentioned. I looked as good as I could, but nothing. My cousin tried to play it off, but his face definitely looked a bit spooked, yet noticeably bluffing. So it seemed like the friend or his cousin said, no, it was me, but really he was bluffing. So there was some sort of a phantom meow going on as well. Yeah. But if you can hear a moan or get that message that you're not welcome in that area, and you hear it, then, and no one else does, then yeah, you want to possibly leave and just take that as a warning and just, jot that down.
Yeah.
Make a note of that. Just make a note of that. But I'm sure because, whatever's there is very upset with how badly taken care of the graveyard is. They're probably not happy with the way that their headstone has, gone through some sort of vandalism, especially with the cracked window. I'm sure that when I was there, I possibly had something stolen and was like trying to protect its turf. So I believe like he definitely heard something, and whatever was there was like fed up with what was going on outside.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that it was like interacting with a thought he had that wasn't an action, but even just the idea of like, or even an acknowledgement that someone could vandalize that area was enough to like get that reaction.
Right. So it definitely spooked him.
Yeah.
And his cousin, the cousin trying to play it off like, no, that was me, bro.
Yeah. That's nice. It's a good cousin, but
yeah, it was probably the Lechuza meowing at them. Who knows?
No.
So we're gonna close it off with this awesome story we got from a listener. I think it's Leela, and it's a really good story. It is a testament, like we've mentioned so many times before, that our loved ones always like to come in and let us know that they're there, that they're watching over us. Yeah. And this one is a really good story. If you get emotional, don't worry, you're not alone, because Bryce and I will probably end up crying by the end of this. All right.
Talk today. I'll cry over anything. That's great.
I've been crying over I hate watching the TikToks of the dogs that pass away when they show their happy puppy or cat. I'm like, no. When I look at the hashtags, Rainbow Bridge, I'm like, no, I have to like just scroll through them now. I can't anymore. I look at Mia and I'm like crying, and she's like, what are you crying about? Like, I'm like,
I can't think about it, or otherwise I get too upset.
All right, this story is called The Visitation.
Ooh.
Hey guys, my name is Layla Suede. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. I am originally a Southern California girl, born and raised in Huntington Beach. But I have lots of ghost stories to tell, but I decided I'd ease Miss Bryce into this with a sentimental story about dream visitation, my first from my father. I will try my best not to get emotional during this, but I figured since it was coming up on the 1-year anniversary of his passing, that sharing this story would be cathartic for me, and hopefully to help others who may have lost somebody within the past year or so. But my dad passed away on April 22nd, 2020, and it was a little bit of a surprise. He had been battling cancer, but we did not know it was where it was. He was still going to treatments. The doctors were adjusting medications, things like that. So it was actually one day when he was leaving a cancer treatment, he was getting into my mom's car and fell and broke his hip. So he did have to undergo surgery. He was unable to walk. He was put into a treatment facility, a care facility in Huntington Beach. Of course, because of COVID, we weren't allowed to be with him or visit him. Only my mother was allowed to stand at the window of his room and hold up a sign and tell him she loved him. While he was there, the nursing staff and doctors kept approaching my mom asking about hospice care for him, situations like that. In our experience, hospice care, it comes at the end of your life. So she was very confused. We were all confused about why they were asking about hospice. But we did find out that my dad's cancer had metastasized so greatly that he was already in a rapid decline, and we weren't aware of it. So we did decide to do a hospice care, and he was able to come home. So I was able to go home about 4 days before it passed and spend some time with him, tell him over and over how much we loved him, what a good daddy he was. We prayed over him. We watched his favorite movie. His last meal was almost a whole tub of coffee ice cream, of all the things. And when we heard my dad take his last breath, it felt like a blessing and a curse. We were all there with him. We got to say goodbye and sent him to heaven with all of our love. A few days later, when I came back up to the Bay Area, I had a dream. I am engaged, and one of the hardest things to think about selfishly when my dad passed was that he wouldn't be walking me down the aisle or having my daddy-daughter dance at my wedding. So in my dream, because dreams are weird, the first part of it was my dad was back home in his bed, in his hospital gown, and it was a mistake. He hadn't passed away. He got to wherever he went and he was still alive, and he came back home. So weird part over. But in my dream, he got up and he walked over to me and asked me to dance. Etta James's At Last was a song I had always wanted to walk down the aisle to. So in my dream, we slow danced to At Last while I sang it to him and gave him a kiss on the cheek. He told me he loved me, and then I woke up. So when I woke up, first, I was heartbroken because it wasn't real. But second, I was elated because I knew that was my dad's way of telling me he was okay, that he could walk, he could dance, he could be with me whenever he needed to be or whenever I needed to have him on the other side. And that made me feel so much better. When we moved into our new home, my fiance and I moved into our new home a month later. And I was sitting on the couch. One of my cats assumed the meerkat position, as I call it, staring intently into the hallway, just watching something. And all of a sudden, I just got this huge whiff of cigar smoke. My dad was a cigar aficionado. He grew tobacco and rolled cigars in our home, and you never saw my father without a cigar in his mouth and two more waiting in his pocket. So my fiance and I both also smoke cigars because of my dad. But when I smelled the cigar smoke, I looked around and asked my fiance, did he go smoke a cigar? And he said, no, I've been in here the whole time. This is a brand new home. We were the first people to live in it, so it wasn't a residual smoke from maybe a previous tenant. I told him to come over, and I said, I smell smoke. I smell cigars. And he came over and he said, I do too. And just as quickly as it came, it left. And he told me that was your dad. He came to see your new house and to be with you on your first night in your new home. And that was another wonderful thing of him to do. So anyway, that's a couple of my stories. I hope to send in some more ghost stories, a little bit more creepiness. But for now, something a little sentimental. I hope all the Holly weirdos out there are staying safe. If anybody else is dealing with a loss during this time, my heart goes out to you. And know they're always with you. They'll find a way to let you know they're okay. So thank you guys, and enjoy. I hope you enjoyed the story. Bye.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, I'm trying not to cry. It's such a sweet tale. Such a sweet tale, but yeah. Our loved ones always, I'm going to cry. Our loved ones always come back. Yeah.
Yeah, and their love for us doesn't stop, it doesn't change. So that, like, her dad wanted to, like, make sure she's okay and check in on her. Like, that didn't change. That will never change.
I always believe it, that our loved ones always come back. And it's such a coincidence that a lot of these stories that we're sharing today are of loved ones who seem like they're coming back to visit, their family, and they're leaving, personal sense of theirs, just to acknowledge their presence, which I'm a firm believer of, whether it's a family member or a fur family member. I'm always of the belief that they're always going to make their way to communicate and contact with you. But that was such a beautiful story.
Thank you so
Layla,
much.
I didn't want to cry, but it's just such an amazing story. Like, your dad is there. Your dad is there watching over you, and I'm sure he's super proud of you. I would highly recommend, and this is me personally, because I'm going to do this week in honor of my grandmother, but leave him something on a table. Like a piece of candy for your father, could possibly even be cigar. If you leave him a cigar, say next to a picture of him, he would really appreciate that. Little gifts, on your little personal ofrenda. For my grandmother, for some reason, I've been feeling her a lot lately, and I've been getting a lot of people reaching out to me, separate people that don't know each other, telling me that they've been really sensing my grandmother. I'm like, yeah, she's been coming to my mind a lot. Something was even pushing me to make her favorite dessert, which is like Rice Krispie treats. She loved Rice Krispie treats. So something was telling me I should make her some in honor of my grandmother. And I'm sure she'll like that. But yeah, I've been sensing something again in my apartment, and of course, it's been confirmed by 3 separate people that do not know each other.
That is crazy.
And who have told me, this is your grandmother. And, at first I'm like, okay, everybody knows that, my grandmother has passed, but they were pointing out certain characteristics of her that no one would know. So I'm like, yes, she would say, she would say that. She would say that. So yeah, but that is such a good story. It's very heartbreaking, and our hearts do go out to you. If you need Bryce to walk you down the aisle, he would definitely do that.
Oh my God. If you cry at your wedding, I will cry at your wedding. It does not matter if I know the bride and groom, if I don't know the couple.
Yes.
Yeah, I just cry. I literally, the second music starts playing all the way until the I do's, I just cry the whole time.
Yeah.
Really, really.
Him to walk you down the aisle or be the flower girl, he will be perfect for that.
I will volunteer.
But we do raise our glasses filled with ice cream coffee or iced coffee in honor of your father, and know that, he's always looking out after you. And that's so sweet that, yes, we've gone through so much loss recently this year, and you're not alone. And always remember that those loved ones are always nearby. Just call out to them, and you never know. They might come and give you a little visit.
Yeah. Throw
a little scent in the air. If Mia passed away, I think I would smell her farts. She would smell of farts and doggy treats. I think that would be her way of communicating with me.
She's communicating. You're so lucky. Now I want some coffee ice cream. I need it.
I know. I have ice cream, but I don't think I have coffee flavored. Well, guys, that is the rest of our listener's tale. We got a little emotional towards the end, but that was just, I know that was just a beautiful ending. And also, I just also want to point this out that, when it comes to ghost stories, when it comes to the paranormal, it's not always negative. There's always a positive there. And I feel like, with the way that Hollywood has displayed and portrayed the community as being something that is consumed by negative entities or demons, it is not 100% that way.
No.
There's so much good just as much as there's, bad out there. But I know a lot of us always want to hear the crazy horror stories, that come out of it. And it's not always like that. So. Yeah, but these were great stories, guys. Keep them coming so we can throw out another listener's tale as well. And we just want to say thank you to everyone who has
Yes.
submitted, and thank you to everyone that is listening. Once again, if you have a scary story or an unusual story, an alien story, send it our way. Send it to hollyweirdparanormal@gmail.com. We would love to have Bryce read it and be scared.
Scared and dramatic. It's the two things I do best.
Yes. Also, if you love Hollywood Paranormal, and you have a little time to spare, please head on over to our Apple Podcasts and give us an awesome rating, a 5-star rating, if possible. Please don't be too Karen on the rating.
What are you going to do? You know, we're just two girls in the city trying to make our way through a global pandemic. We're doing our best.
Yes. Talking about those and iced coffees, which is, I'm here for, you know?
Yeah.
And also, guys, if you want to stalk us, you can stalk us on our website, which is www.hollyweirdparanormal.com. You can read our bios. You can also tune into past episodes and seasons. You can also venture our merch store. And you can also head on over to our Patreon page, which is www.patreon.com/Hollywood Paranormal, and just for as little as $1 or more per month, it could be 1, 2, or 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. You could cancel at any time, but we appreciate anything. A little does go a long way. Bryce will record himself dancing on a piano to Judy Garland. So there you go.
I will. In fact, I have a whole one-man show of it. It's great.
There you go. And for our recent Patreon members, we just have a few to thank. And I just also want to let you guys know, there was a delay on your goodie bags. It's because I noticed that we ran out of coasters and a few pins, so I had to replenish that. And also, I found these beautiful thank you cards. I don't want to say anything because they're really cool. You're going to want to frame them. They're really, really cute. They're specially made for our patrons. I just found this artist, and you're just going to like them when you get them. They're worth the wait. But we just wanted to thank our new patrons. We have Layla Suede, Inaka Van Lirop. Inaka, we butchered your name. We're sorry. We're sorry, girl. We're sorry. Jen Wiedner. And Dr. Shiloh, our girl over at LA Not So Confidential. Thank you so much, guys. So if you want to stalk us somewhere, you can find us at Hollywood Paranormal on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, and on Twitter at HWP Podcast. All right, guys, stay tuned for our next episode. We're still planning on it, and will be a surprise, possibly with a surprise guest, of course. And always remember to stay healthy and well. Most of all, stay Holly Weird. Bryce, do you have anything you want to say? Some words of encouragement.
Bye. That's encouraging, right?
Bye, guys. Stay Holly Weird and have a good day, month, year, hour, 30 minutes. All right. Take care and see you later, friends.